The world is a cruel and unjust place. There is no harmony in the universe. The only constant is suffering.
Maybe kindness is the real punk rock. I think I may be obsessed with the new Superman movie. I've seen it twice in theaters. I got the Superman burger, the Superman blizzard, and I came really close to stealing this cardboard cutout of Superman, but I didn't because that's not what Superman would do. So obviously I knew I had to make something from it, but I didn't want to do something too complicated since I want to get this video out. So after thinking long and hard about it, I finally came up with an idea for a shot. So picture this. Superman's gonna be up in the clouds with some earbuds in. He pulls out his phone, presses play on a song, looks at the camera, smiles, flies away. Nice and simple, right? It should be easy to do. Just pop out the green screen, film a couple shots, and slap that on a cloud background. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Wrong. You should know better than think I'd make life that easy for myself. Now, despite having near identical builds, I don't really look that much like David Cornsweat. Also, I've got this thing, and historically, Superman and mustaches do not mix. Never forget. So I'm going to be making a fully CGI Superman. I mean, how hard could it be? So first I need to find a 3D model of David Cornsweat's Superman, which was kind of tricky since the movie had just come out. Eventually I found this model, which is actually the one from Fortnite. It's going to take a bit of work to look realistic since it has these exaggerated cartoony proportions, but it got the likeness down pretty well, so I think it'll be a good base to start from. So I brought that into Blender and started editing it with sculpt mode to make his proportions look more realistic. Ironically, I had to make Superman's muscles smaller in order for it to look realistic. Next, I moved on to my least favorite step of the process. Hair. Now, if you ever wondered why I didn't add hair on my MODOK video, it's because, well, first of all, because it would have made the compositing like way more complicated, but also it's because I hate using Blender's hair system, specifically the grooming. Like for fur, it's one thing since it's like hair all over, but specifically for grooming hair for humans, it just takes me forever to get things that look good. Like it's so unintuitive to me. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Maybe there's someone who's like, oh yeah, that's my favorite part, but just the grooming is like so wonky to handle for me. I just don't like it. In my screen recording of this, I paused it for an hour just to work on the hair. And even then after that, I played around with it for like 30 minutes more before I got something that looked half decent. But eventually I got it looking semi-passable, so I'll take the win. I also tried to add his eyebrows using the hair system, but that just was not working, so eventually I just looked up a 3D model of eyebrows on Sketchfab and just added that to my model. Then I realized that the Superman model I had downloaded didn't actually come with a cape. No capes! So I found another model of a cape online that actually lined up really well with my model, so I can only assume it came from the same place, but who knows? Now that I had my model already, I was ready to start with the animation. Now, I don't have a ton of experience in animation, but it's something I've always wanted to get into, and it's easier to learn now than ever thanks to today's sponsor, Skillshare. People keep asking me how I learned how to make VFX, and honestly, it was mostly just digging through random videos online, trying to find good information, but having to sit through a lot of videos that sounded like this.
What's up guys, welcome back to another awesome VFX tutorial.
It took me years to get to where I am, but it could have taken me only months if I'd used something like Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. They have tons of classes in a range of topics like art and illustration, design, and photography, all taught by people who have actually worked in the industry. Like this class by Sir Wade on Blender animation, where he breaks down a professional workflow on how to analyze reference footage and turn that into a full polished animation in Blender. For the first time in my life, I'm actually not terrified of the monster that is the graph editor, and I used a lot of the concepts from that class in this video. And whatever classes you take, you can learn at your own pace from wherever you go, whether that be from the comfort of your own home or while you're traveling. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now I had him animated, but he was still missing an actual phone to hold, so I found a 3D model of a phone and added some scratches and scuffs to the material to make it look more realistic. I also added a Batman logo on the back just as a fun little Easter egg. I like to think that if David Cornsweat's Superman met Batman, he would just be like a total fanboy like the rest of us. Next, I found a model of some earbuds and got rid of the wire since I was going to be adding my own to simulate later with a cloth simulation. I parented the bottom part to the phone and the earbuds to the head. Then I made my own wire by extruding some vertices and adding a solidify modifier to that. Then I added a cloth simulation to that and connected it to the ends using hooks. It took a bit of tweaking to get it to look good, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now you may be thinking, wouldn't it have been easier to just give him wireless earbuds? Why bother simulating anything at all? And I'll tell you why. It's because wired earbuds are so much better than wireless earbuds, and I will die on that hill. You don't have to charge them. You just plug it in and it works. It's so much easier to switch between devices, and they're cheap. Like, I just love them. And I'm using Superman for my propaganda, and you can't stop me. And it just makes sense lore-wise. Like, if you're flying at high speeds and an AirPod flies out, that's gone. You're never seeing that thing again. But if a wired earbud falls out, oh no, where'd it go? It's right there. It just makes sense. What was I talking about? Superman, that's right. At this point I noticed that his eyes were looking a little dead inside, and this is a problem since eyes are one of the first things you notice about a human face. They're literally called the window to the soul, so I knew I had to fix this. So what I did is I found this realistic model of a human eye on Sketchfab, and then replaced the eyes from the original rig with that. So this model actually replicates how an eye is set up. Eyes aren't just spheres with color painted on them. There's a lens in front of the pupil that actually refracts light, and this model replicated that. It's a subtle thing, but subconsciously it registers in the brain as looking more natural. Another thing I did to give the eyes some more life was to take a point light and position it just behind the camera so that some little highlights reflected in the eyes. At this point I also kept tweaking and tweaking the skin shader, making it more reflective, more subsurface scattering, just anything to make it look less uncanny. Here's the truth. I'm not dumb. I know that making a full photorealistic human head with CGI is near impossible. Even Hollywood has been struggling to do it for years. So I know that I'm not gonna make something fully photorealistic in a few weeks just playing around on Blender. I know that, I accept it. So what I'm trying to do at this point is just trying to make it look as good as possible. At this point I'm going for more of like a really good video game render. Like something that like you look at it and you're like, I know it's not real, but like it looks good, right? It doesn't trigger in your brain as this looks cursed, this looks wrong. Like something that's pleasing to the eye. That's what I'm aiming for at this point. Then I lit my scene using an aerial HDRI from productioncrate.com and gave it a simple camera animation, which I added some camera shake to using Ian Hubert's Camera Shakeify add-on. Now I wasn't seeing enough of my background in the render, so I actually did the render in 2 passes. First, I rendered Superman with a transparent background with the camera focal length of around 80mm. I found that gives a pretty flattering look for character renders. Then I hid the visibility of everything and just rendered the background with a focal length of around 35mm, so you see more of the background in it. Next, I added the secret... Ignore the dog in the background, that's just Crypto getting into something. Next, I got to add the secret sauce to the shot with compositing, which I did in DaVinci Resolve. I merged both renders together and added a bit of light wrap. Then I went through the shot and added things like blur, sharpening, grain, chromatic aberration, stuff like that. One thing I found that really tied this shot together was adding a subtle layer of glow over everything, so it looks like it's all in the same environment. Honestly, I might have overused this a little bit, but I think it looks pretty good. Finally, as a cherry on top, I added some light leak footage over everything to make it look like the camera's actually reacting to the sun. Now this shot is finished, but I'm actually not done with this scene, because I'm adding a bonus shot in there. I wanted to add a bit of realism to the shot since it's a lot of CGI, so what I did is I filmed a shot of me pulling out my phone in front of a green screen so that I could add that over the clouds. Then I tracked my arm and added a sleeve for my Superman model onto it. Then I did a screen replacement on the phone to make it look like he's actually pressing play on a song. I also added a couple of Easter eggs onto the screen. The date is set to April 18th and the time is 7:38, which in military time is 1938, and April 18th, 1938 is the year that Superman debuted. Then I used a Luma key to add my thumb on top of the screen. Now at this point I did notice a mistake I made. In the reflection of the screen, you can see that I was wearing a red shirt on the day that I filmed it, but Superman is obviously the big blue Boy Scout, so I had to fix this. So what I did is I used a color corrector and a polygon mask and used that to shift the hue from red to blue. Then I went through the same process as before, adding blur and grain and chromatic aberration, all that stuff. And now the whole scene was finished. Now quick note, I did add music to the scene, but I can't actually play it because of copyright stuff, but just know that it's that Punkrocker song that I've been injecting into my veins nonstop since I saw Superman. So now enjoy the full scene with my copyright-free cover.
Cause I'm a punk talker, yes I am.
That was fun. Honestly, I don't think it turned out terrible for a full CGI human, but I'm sure that if you disagree, you will let me know down below. And now that I have this Superman model all set up, maybe I'll use it for another video. Never know. This is what you call foreshadowing for my next video, so here's hoping I actually make that video and it doesn't end up being like that Venom video I teased a couple years ago and just never made. Also, just for fun, I made a version of this shot where he's listening to Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters, which is a really good movie you should go see. You can check that here if you're interested in that, and also if you just want to see me goof around in Blender a bit more, then you can check out this video right here. Up and away!